From the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Welcome back to High Velocity Radio. My name is Joshua Kornitsky. I'm a professional implementer of the entrepreneurial operating system and your host here today. I have with me two wonderful guests that I'm grateful to have. With me in studio are Abi Golhar of really global presence, and I've also got Gillian Rabin here with me from Lafayette and Oak, and we're going to talk a lot about what makes business run and grow and scale. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much.
It's nice to have you. I'm not even going to run through the introduction.
Okay.
We're just going to jump right in and have a
Incredible.
discussion, because at the end of the day, what started our dialogue earlier before we ever hit record was the simple idea of Abi asked the question, what makes a business go from 5 to 50 million? And I said, mostly wishful thinking. No, the reality of what gets a business to grow isn't an easily answered question, but the reality of it is it takes organization, it takes the right people in the right seats, it takes a plan, but it also takes, Gillian, somebody who understands and can translate the business's story to the market.
Yes.
Right? And
Absolutely.
folks that understand why investing in this organization, investing in this company might be a good thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk. How do we get there? Here's our company. We sell $5 million worth of widgets a year.
Three things.
Okay.
People. So you need the right operator, CEO, C-suite people.
Okay.
The second, the narrative. And the third, capital.
Okay.
And it's not capital in the traditional sense of private equity, or I'm going to go to Bank of America and get a loan
Sure.
for $5 million. Right? It's very unlikely that will happen. But it's those three things.
So I want to take that apart a piece at a time, right? And I don't want to necessarily go in order, because the first question I want to have is, okay, so here's your $5 million widget company. Here's $5 million, wherever the source is from. What does an average company do with a sudden influx of financing? And I'm asking, I don't know, what happens when you hand a $5 million loan, regardless of the details of it? Here's $5 million in funding. What happens to a company that has no plan?
Well, they have to make a plan. And I think you start with that story. A plan is arbitrary until there's a through line to that plan, and that through line comes through with a compelling narrative. And it has to not just be a story. Anyone can write a compelling story, but does it make sense for what you're doing and what you're selling and why you're selling? And I think in today's world, you have so many. There's an onslaught of compelling narratives that are always trying to grab our attention. And so it's figuring out who your audience is and really capturing what it is that you're doing, why it is that you're selling what you're selling, and who you are. Because a lot of people do gravitate towards a mission that is relatable, that is a human-centric mission, and finding those gaps in the market and kind of capitalizing on those. So why would someone need a widget right now? And it's kind of figuring that out.
So how do you learn to build that narrative?
Through trial and error. I mean, you have to. I think it's getting the right people to help you, like Lafayette and Oak. But if you're just doing it on your own, I think it's brainstorm sessions and refining. It's testing and refining. It's like A/B marketing, right? But having operators that have experience in that is incredibly helpful.
Well, so you mentioned Lafayette and Oak. I mentioned Lafayette and Oak. Tell us a little bit about Lafayette and Oak. What role do they fulfill in the market?
Yeah, actually, to your initial point, if you just get an influx of $5 million and you don't have a plan around it, you fail.
And that's to my experience that
that's
it is money from heaven, which is great, but money from heaven in the hands of people who don't no negative implication, who simply aren't accustomed to getting that type of an influx in cash, can make decisions that they believe that are in the best interest of the organization.
It's like winning the lottery. Right? 99% of the time, doesn't
17 new trucks.
Yeah, no, you don't. Right, and even if you did, even if you got them, one, you're probably not buying them right. Number two, you probably don't have the right accounting firm to help you really benefit from the tax strategy
Sure.
behind it. And then you don't have the people to run it, and now you're behind with payroll. No. So if you happen to have $5 million in cash tomorrow, just don't spend it.
And all of your assets immediately depreciate. So
So what you're saying is there needs to be a strategy.
I think there might
There
need to
needs
be
to
a
be a
strategy.
strategy.
Okay, and is that where Lafayette and Oak comes into play?
Yeah, so Lafayette and Oak is centered around the idea that you're a business owner and you're looking at the field. And you're looking out there and you're listening to podcasts and radio shows and you're swiping up on TikTok and Instagram like I do every morning. And everybody is telling you to either do one of two things. Number one, grow your business, or number two, sell your business.
Sure. Private equity.
Yay.
Yay. We can all cash out.
But if you okay, yes and no.
Right.
The way that we can get there, but the way that private equity typically works is they'll say, well, we'll establish a baseline valuation for your business, and then here's 50% in cash. And now the other 50%, well, it's going to be an earnout, it's going to be a seller note, it's going to be some kind of rollover equity, and now you're mine for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years until you die.
Right.
And oh, by the way, you have so many more metrics that you have to meet. Enter the world of private equity in really hard teeth.
Right.
Yeah. So Lafayette and Oak is centered around this idea that you're a business owner, you're looking at the field, and you've got these two options. Maybe take the road that nobody's really talking about. Maybe before you grow your business, you laid the foundation of the right corporate infrastructure, which then will attract the right capital, which then also informs the right inorganic and organic growth strategies. More often than not, people talk about and think about organic growth, marketing, sales. What investments do we have to make in people, strategy, execution, ops, right? That's the stuff that organically will drive the value of a business forward and upward. But the other thing that also drives this valuation is inorganic growth, also known as, hey, let's go find our competitors and let's go buy them. The problem in the world of today is private credit, private equity, those sources of funds are not readily available if you don't know, one, how to build your narrative, and number two, using that narrative to craft a compelling enough acquisition, holdco with portco stories to then attract a private equity, private credit fund to say, we'll do a little bit of debt with follow-on equity. And what does that structure look like for me, the business owner?
I can understand how confusing this is for generically the average business owner.
It's already getting confusing.
Right. Because these are not, unless they've got a background in finance or they've been in M&A or banking, everything you've just said is going to hit them like 100 pounds on the head.
People are pausing and Googling as they should. Yeah.
Well, and that's the reality of it.
Right.
But is it a fair, I don't want to lead the witness. Is it a fair statement to ask or a fair question to ask that we've reached the point that, yes, of course, with grit and determination, you can grow and sell your business. You can. But if you want to maximize that value, have we reached the point that we have to have assistance?
If you don't, assistance will be provided for you. And typically that assistance is not going to have your best interest in mind.
I see what you're saying.
Enter the world of business brokering.
Right. And I've talked with enough business brokers to know that, and one of them in particular espoused a concept that stuck with me, right? That the buyer has a team. As the seller, if you don't have a team, you're largely missing the opportunity to maximize what you're going to receive.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like
it's like if you were on a sports team, like let's say that you were a soccer team and there was only one coach and the coach was on your rival team, but the coach is supposed to be coaching both of you.
Teams,
but
right.
For whatever reason, the other team keeps winning. You have to have people who are in your corner and who are looking out for your best interest.
So
always.
What are the types of things that people need to be aware of? What do they need to watch for? What are the types of team members that say Lafayette helps them? Obviously, we talked about crafting a narrative, and I suspect that happens does that happen closer to the beginning so that we know our story before we go looking, or does that happen further down the road when we've gotten financials in order, or does it happen at the same time?
Depends on when the people come and ask for assistance. I
Okay.
think each operator is different. But
Yeah, so it depends. As Jillian mentioned, sometimes it's the narrative first, because I really want to be able to feel your heart.
Sure.
And if we know we can tell a compelling story around it, then great. We can see that we could check out the financials. Even a business so there are 4 stages to any business: startup, growth, maturity, decline. Right, 4 stages. I don't care if you're a Fortune 500 company or you're just a fledgling startup.
Sure.
Startup, growth, maturity, decline. There are narratives inside of each of these stages, but there are also a very specific way P&L should look inside of these stages. Startups, for example, you'll have 30, 40, 50% year-over-year growth. A company in growth stage, probably not going to see that, right? You're probably going to see you see this, right? 5, 10, maybe 10%. Mature company, 3 to 4% a year. And then if you're a company on decline because you just failed to you failed to realize that AI is a thing, just like, you probably also thought that the internet was just a fad
It's a fad.
in 2000.
It'll pass.
It still is. It still is. I believe Al Gore. He invented the internet. I'm still in his camp.
You never know what'll happen. That's all I'm going to say.
But to your point, listen, do you have a sustainable? The question everybody should be asking themselves if they're listening: do you have a sustainable business model? Have your financials grown from over the last 3 years? You take a look at 2022, 23, 24, and now year to date 2025. What are you projecting for 2026? Are you increasing in sales? Are you decreasing in sales? What's happening? Do you have the appetite to go out and acquire symbiotic companies, companies that will provide symbiotic relationship to yours? If you're an HVAC company, can you go buy a plumbing company? Everybody's talking about plumbing companies these days.
I have several clients in that space.
Yeah, Cody Sanchez says go buy a laundromat. Great, right? But should you just run off and buy a laundromat? Unlikely, unless you have the right self-talk. And to your point, where do you start? Start by analyzing the thoughts that you have in your head about what you believe this journey of business means to you.
So, as I mentioned earlier, talking about EOS is based first and foremost on core values. And I'm going to drive a somewhat tenuous line to narrative from core values. But in my brain, those are deeply connected.
Absolutely.
Because the story of the core values of your organization is the story of who your organization is. So maybe the line's not so tenuous, but when I look at it through my lens, if I don't understand who they are and what they do, more importantly, if they don't understand who they are and what they do, often companies are still trying to be all things to all people. And when you find yourself in that situation as the organization, I always stress the need to focus, to do less better rather than more poorly. And in the question that occurs to me naturally as we're talking is, okay, so Abi, you said that what if you look at your financials for 3 years? The first question I have is, okay, so I just looked at my financials and 2 out of the 3 are crap. Does that mean I don't have any chance in talking to you guys, that I'm just shit out of luck till I get my stuff together? Or is there value in reaching out?
So I still believe there's value in reaching out. We'll give you a starting point,
Okay.
both from a financial perspective and also from a narrative perspective, and what the narrative needs to be so the next time you reach out after you've fixed your stuff,
Right.
it could be a more productive conversation. Lafayette and Oak will step in when, let's say, you've got a productive company. You're between 10, 15, 20, $30 million in revenue, and you're looking at acquiring a competitor or 2 or 3. The banks have turned you down because they don't believe you can do it. And what you really need is backing by somebody that has the assets, that has the capital markets access that you don't have.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're that Lafayette and Oak is willing to at least look at less conventional approaches. I don't want to say that we're talking about subprime or anything like that, but if a traditional bank's going to make a loan, if they look at it, it adds up, and they're going to make enough money for them to consider it, and that's the end of their discussion. If they're not
Mhm.
going to make enough money, if they think it's too risky because a table somewhere tells them that it is, that's it. Deal's dead.
Mhm.
But is that a fair broad generality about Lafayette? No, that they have the broader perspective.
We are bringing New York capital to Main Street.
Okay. So yes.
The answer is yes.
Okay. I push you on it only because I believe that there are brilliant ideas right now that suffer from lack of exposure, which ultimately translates to lack of either guidance or funding.
Mhm.
And knowing that there may be an avenue or an opportunity, and we're not talking about, Jim and Mary in the garage who are trying to build the next robot.
Yeah.
We're talking about technologies and approaches and products and things that are
Mhm.
already underway and in production that may have other approaches. And to me, I like that because I think that level of creativity is what has been largely snuffed out by traditional finance.
And
I was gonna jump in with the statistic that I read recently, talking about traditional banks. They're now funding only 23% of leveraged buyouts. And so you have private credit that funds 77% of that. And I think that speaks to this kind of wave of the creativity and like
Sure.
the non-traditional sense of these loans and the credit financing. So
yeah, and to that point, if you're a business and you're thinking about how do I get the capital markets access, you've got to do it a couple different ways. Right? One, move to New York
Right.
and spend 2 years humping it in meetings, daily meetings with investment bankers,
that's quite the narrative.
which is quite the right. Literally, and fingers crossed, hoping somebody will take a chance. And if they do take a chance, it's going to cost you $400,000 and an upfront retainer just to go get them. All right, so that's the problem number one.
I was
right? Like
part
it's-
of a
okay, so
startup that went through that, and
So you
and the
get it.
reason I'm sitting here right now is because I did not get it. We didn't get the money
Mhm.
because no matter how well put together we were, there was always somebody who had it at the next level.
Yeah.
who had every duck in its proper row, who had their narrative,
Mhm.
who could tell their story, and lo and behold, the dollars went there.
Yeah. The
Absolutely.
question you need to be asking yourself is, are you the prettiest girl at the bar? And
Not.
and that's what
I know I'm not.
I mean.
I've accepted this.
I have too. If you're the prettiest girl at the bar, you are going to get approached. And that approach is exactly what we're saying, right? We are aligning operators, capital, and narrative. These are the three things that are universally not accepted. It's not the right word, but they're universally required if you want that level of access outside of just paying for it. And if you do pay for it, you don't even know if the guy or the gal is going to be successful.
Understood.
And that's a risk that you run.
Excuse me.
Or Lafayette gives you a glimpse into a potential future, and we can run that roll-up strategy with you and potentially for you using assets that we can back you with.
Well, and so now you touched on the next area I wanted to talk about, which
Mhm.
is the operators, right? We've been talking about the financial side of things.
Yeah.
When you engage with someone, and let's just assume that they've, I don't want to call it a barrier or a hurdle, but simply they are the right organization to
Mhm.
align with they are in the right place in their market. They've achieved a level of success that they have opportunities ahead of them.
Mhm.
They don't always have the right operators.
Mhm.
So what happens? Again, the answer is always going to be, it depends. Speaking in generalities, how do you help?
First, we listen. And I think for me, the thing that drives me, the thing that I'm really passionate about is obviously helping people, but understanding how to help them. I love people's stories, and I'm a fervent believer that the more you speak, the less you learn. And so I first want to fully understand where you've been, why you chose this route, how you became successful to the point where you are now, and what is driving you to grow. And I want to know about your kids, and I want to know about your dog who might be sick, and I want to know all the things that go on into your life because they do affect your business.
Absolutely.
And so once Lafayette and Oak has that understanding, that's kind of the jumping off point for how we can create that compelling narrative, because where you are right now may not be where you want to be. And so it's understanding the past, the present, combining that into how that helps push you forward to the future.
That speaks to me. I understand that completely, because I want to ask rather than tell. How often do the operators you talk to know the answer to where they want to be? Truly, I want to be at X number. Okay, but is that it? Is it just $20 million? You can drop dead and everything's fine.
Yeah, we right. There's a tax strategy for that, actually.
In the Hitchhiker's Guide, you can spend a year dead for legal purposes, but
and then vote.
Yeah.
That's too politically charged. Too soon? Maybe too soon.
We're too late.
Or
sadly, I fear you're right.
So okay, you have to know. What the hell is the question?
The question is regarding if you don't have the right operator.
Oh, okay. So you look at yourself and see if this is what you even want for your future. And if you don't want this for your future, then fire yourself and bring somebody else on. And it gives you the ability to say, hey, I can actually step into something that I wanted to do this entire time, but I've been forced to do, or I've had to do because nobody else needed or should have or could have done it. And that's just taking a moment in time and a breath to see it.
So I want to push you on that one, because I would tell you in my personal experience in working with business owners, that is the right answer. Let's go with 50% of the time, but less than 10% of the operators are willing to admit or take that step. How do you help them with that? How do you help them understand that I'm going to segue, but it's related. There's a wonderful titled book that I'm not a huge fan of, but it's a great title, called "What Got You Here Won't Get You There." And I'm going to. Are you familiar with the book? So
Yeah,
to summarize for anyone that doesn't know, is by being a belligerent jerk, you pushed your company this far, but you can't get to the next level by continuing to be a belligerent jerk, because you're now doing business where you are no longer the biggest fish in the pond. The pond just got a lot bigger and you're a lot smaller now, and that strategy doesn't work here. And I tie that back to that same level of understanding of, hey, it's usually I'm the savior. I'm sales, I'm customer service. I've done all of it and we've gotten to $10 million. How can I possibly step away? Till the heart attack, and then they find, but
right. Well, to that point, if you want to exit, 10 out of 10 business owners will have an exit event in their lifetime.
Planned or unplanned?
Correct.
Okay.
That's 100% success rate.
Sure.
Right. 10 out of 10 people on this planet will die.
Yeah.
Also.
100% exit rate.
Yeah. Planned or unplanned, maybe. I don't know. That's a darker hole. But if you want an exit in your business, if you want a succession, a proper succession plan with somebody stepping up and saying, I want to run this, and you want to spend time with your spouse at the end of the day, and you've given 25, 30 years, the single biggest challenge that you will have is removing yourself from the business. If you want, your value drops, man. So if you're doing $1 million a year in EBITDA and you're the only person running the business, there's no way on God's green earth that you're going to get 5 to 6 to 7 times EBITDA in valuation. It's 1 at best, and you might get a little bit of cash for it. So if you're listening to this and you're the only person in your business and you don't have EOS, or if you don't have an operating system, you don't have people, wake up and smell the roses. Your valuation is going to suck. And the reality that you'll eventually face is going to be from some business broker that you don't know, who's a glorified real estate agent saying your business is worth X because you're still running it.
Right. And everything you're saying resonates with me because unfortunately I've lived it and borne witness to it.
Mm.
Because when you have a single point of failure in any system,
Yeah.
that system doesn't have a lot of value. So when we can get them to see the wisdom in that and plan the transition out, now you've got a vacuum. So
Mhm.
how do you help them as an organization? Do you find other key executives? Do you have a pool of resources that you're able to bring to bear?
Mhm.
It's a combination of a couple of things. One, it's I need to understand your mental baggage before we start moving forward because now it's a completely new relationship, right? If you just had a breakup and you're starting to date somebody new,
Right.
you're not going to uh, you're not going to move that baggage from your previous relationship into the new one, right? And if you did, you get caught flat-footed and have a very tough conversation with your new significant other.
Right.
I've done that, sucked, hard conversations, right? So that's the first piece. The second piece is, yes, if we're looking at an acquisition strategy, we may not even need to find people because if we're acquiring other businesses, we're inheriting people. Now, the question is, do we have the right culture fit? And what is the integration risk? What is the narrative that these now 2 or 3 companies that are banding together for a significantly larger, sizable valuation? What is are these companies disparate in nature? Do we have what financial challenges do we have? What cultural people challenges, integration ops challenges? Are the right people in the right seats? And if they're not, we got to move things around. And then this is really where you come in, where it's I need to get into the minds of all of these folks to say, well, are you even right for this?
Right. And I think it comes down to something that people are inherently not great at, and it's not a practiced skill, I think, enough, both in business and in personal life. And that's just self-reflection. Honest to God self-reflection. And by God, I just mean yourself.
I
Like, are you
understand.
lying to yourself? It's a real look at what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. Genuinely. Where do you thrive best? Where do you fall short? And how can you either work on those the shortcomings and try to improve those things, or where can you find other people who can bolster those shortcomings so you can just focus on the things that you're really good at? Because that's an okay thing too. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, that hugely insightful. My question is that something you're able to help organizations navigate?
Well,
Because
that's
that's an arranged marriage in
yes.
some cases,
Yeah.
or at least partially arranged marriage, where
Mhm.
you're bringing folks in who did not sign up to suddenly be part of the widget company over here, right?
Sure.
Because they make grommets over here, and they never thought grommets and widgets would go together.
And that's where the narrative becomes incredibly important. But you can't start a narrative until the person you're crafting a narrative with about them is honest with themselves. And so it's about getting the honesty from people. And I think to your question earlier about, can you actually make people see that they want to fire themselves? Sometimes I think it's just helping them get to where the reality is. And then they end up coming to that conclusion on their own.
There's a spiritual level to this, and I don't say that with any
Absolutely.
humor,
No.
right? Because you have to that level of honesty, that level of self-determination and
Mhm.
self-qualification or disqualification is more than most people to bring to work. I mean,
Absolutely. I mean,
typically it's not there.
and human beings, we are creatures of adaptation. And like you were saying earlier, being this belligerent, like kind of, hard-headed guy who just kept pushing everybody might have gotten you to a certain level, but now you're in a new environment.
Right.
And so are you going to adapt, or are you going to continue on where you're not seeing the same return that you were in the previous environment? And that is ultimately up to you, but you'll see different outcomes from those decisions.
So to your point, are we going to marry a salmon farm
Right.
and a plumbing company? No, we're not going to do that.
Not yet.
That's not,
Right.
but that's like kind of crazy, right? Like we're not.
Sure.
But if we have the narrative and the story, and we all agree as company A, as I don't know, what is this?
Good Mood Juice.
Good Mood Juice Plumbing Co. Right?
Oof.
That-
Oh my gosh.
Okay, maybe
What a horrendous name.
ABC
Listen.
Plumbing.
ABC Plumbing.
ABC
instead.
Plumbing. If we all agree that ABC Plumbing is ready to take on acquisitions and they've done well financially and they're just looking for this leg up, what does the next 5 years look like? Are we doing a plumbing roll-up? Are we doing a home services roll-up? Two completely different things,
Sure.
right? Plumbing versus plumbing, HVAC, roofing, landscaping, etc. And if that's the case, then we need to strategically start looking at companies / competitors / whatever in whichever region. So let's get super specific on region. Let's get super specific on what we're looking for. And then also the culture of the organization we want to go buy. If the culture of the organization we're going to go buy is rotten from day one, buy. I don't want you. I do not care how profitable you are.
How do you assess that?
30, 60, 90 days.
Boots on the ground?
Yep.
Observing?
Every time. Every single time.
Do you use any tools like Culture Index or Predictive, any of that type of stuff as well?
Yes. Personality tests, I mean, I don't have a subscription to Culture Index, but as long as I have a pretty good understanding of what your shadow behaviors are, like Emergenetics does a really good one.
Huge fan.
Yeah, I did one. I always do one with all my business partners, and it's like, hey, here Abi's shadow behaviors, right? He's short and he wants to be tall. All right. As a result, he's always pain in the ass around people. But that blend shows them and shows me what I need to do for them, what they need to do for me, and how we can just be better together. So it helps coach us. And what I'm really looking for is how do I respond to my shadow behaviors, and then how will I respond to theirs?
Mhm.
How do I create a gap in time? Like if we're in a high stressful situation or high pressure situation,
Sure.
are we going to take a minute and make it feel like a second, or are we going to take a minute and really have it feel like an hour?
Mhm.
So we give it room to breathe, like
Right.
a perfect like you would never ever ever drink a 2018 Napa Cab from Dariush, like a Darius 2 Napa Cab from 2018. That particular vintage, you would never drink that tight. Like you would never drink that the day it was bottled.
Never.
Right? Never. You're gonna wait like
I'll
5
go
years.
with you on
But-
that.
Okay,
Sure.
but like
I'm going with him too.
Yeah. Well, I'm
So fresh wine, not good.
Well,
Remember,
I mean,
this is
depends.
one of his shadows. No.
Yeah, exactly. I'm backpedaling. But what you want to do instead is you want to decant it.
Sure.
You want to let the air hit it, right? You want to violently pour it in the decanter and let the oxygen create the complexity, which is that 2018 Napa Cab from Dariush, the Darius 2. If you're listening, it's a really good bottle of wine.
If you're listening,
I've
you can
had
sponsor.
one bottle. I've had
It's-
one bottle in Texas many years ago.
Uh-huh.
When we're done, I have to now look to see what it was,
Mhm.
just so I can find out.
Yes. I want to jump into collecting wine because I realized like I bought 2 bottles and they were like $350 a bottle. Now I opened both of them, drank them, whatever, right? Great celebrations, $900 a bottle. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. The inflation on these things is so great. Anyway,
It's
I
crazy.
digress.
And I wanna take an aside here just because I do my best to never assume that everybody's following along on every point. And in talking about Emergenetics, talking about Culture Index, the analysis of personality and profile has become a really, really, I want to say succinct, but it's the wrong word. It's become a much better informed science
Mhm.
than what a lot of people know as disc analysis or predictive index from the late 80s and in the early 90s. And in what I'll share with you, because I happen to be very fortunate to know the top Emergenetics trainer in the Southeast, a guy named Kelvin Red. If you don't know him, I'll introduce you to him. He's
Yeah,
been a
that'd be
guest
great.
on the show.
Okay.
And I've had the opportunity to work directly with him. And what I learned more than anything else, and that I want to share for anybody listening, is that these tests do not say that Gillian is terrible when it comes to attention to detail,
Mhm.
randomly speaking. What it says is that her natural state may be less attention to detail. She is more than capable of having 100% attention to detail. It will simply take more of her energy to do that.
Mhm.
that's the piece I think a lot of people misunderstand, that you're not just red or yellow or green or this number or that number. None of these tell you anything other than the trend of the individuals, but having that insight, and as Abi was saying, having the ability to see how it interacts or meshes or doesn't mesh,
Mhm.
that's where we get insight in, going back to our bigger point of when two cultures get together, whether willing or not willing, because in this case, I'm referring to leadership or the staff rather than ownership. Ownership knows what's happening,
Yeah.
but the staff suddenly finds out that there's somebody with their title at this other company,
Mhm.
and, the default behavior is panic. It's not, "Oh, I'm sure we'll work together well."
For sure.
So
And a lot of this too is discussed well in advance of closing, right? Like, hey, this is going to be a great marriage. Here are the optics. Here's the messaging for the team, and then the seller of company company B that we go acquire. That seller may sit on the board of advisors or something like that. They may be a mentor coach depending on what stage of life they're in. If we're working with a 45-year-old who wants to buy competitors, and competitors are 75, 80 years old,
right.
like the older gentleman or the older lady, like they'll want to step out, and they'll want to do so with the right tax incentives
Sure.
and the right quality of life and the right team and the right whatever, when they normally wouldn't have that. And so going back to this entire idea of operator first, then understanding the narrative, and then understanding the capital stack gives us two very clarifying words we can track: clarity and confidence. Does this give us the clarity to do what we need to do? Right? That's number one.
Right.
Number two, the confidence. Do we have the confidence in the teams to actually execute this plan that we've built? Do we have the confidence in ourselves to execute this plan that I want?
Mhm.
Enter the momentum matrix. If you have low clarity and low confidence, you're in this state of paralysis. If you have high clarity and low confidence, you're wavering. You're like, man, I don't really know what to do, but I'm like super clear that I should be trading crypto, right? Great. I
Sure,
just don't know
sure.
how to do it. Like, that's high clarity, low confidence. You can have low clarity, high confidence. You can be the guy that goes to the gym, talk smack about the guy that's benching 400 pounds. And, I'll just talk smack to this guy and then
Tried and
leave.
true strategy. That'll
Yeah. And
good
then,
results every time.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then leave. And then, like, I'll just like build a nice pump going, like doing 5-pound dumbbells for like 3 sets of 10 reps and then leave. Right.
Sure.
Like, that's low clarity, high confidence, right? Walking in with a big ego. The state of momentum, though, is when you have high clarity and high confidence. The trick is to realize that some of the best teams on the planet will fall out of this state of momentum, of this zone of momentum. The question is, are you equipped enough to catch yourself? A great example of this is Lululemon. Lululemon, over the last many years, they captured the yoga market, right?
Sure.
The yoga trend,
Mhm.
but the yoga market. Now they have such a massive issue with leadership that nobody wants to buy Lulu right now. They're like, you guys need to get your shit together.
Right.
Right. So they have lost momentum, and they've catered to almost anything and everybody, to your original point. And when Steve Jobs left Apple, the very first time, same thing happened.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm hitting the table when I'm not supposed to hit the table.
Oh, that's right.
But this is what happened, right? Apple was selling, 18, 19 different products. And then Steve came back. He was hired back to Apple the second time. And then he took it down to 3. So this idea that you can build momentum for yourself inside your companies. And when you have the right operator, you can develop the right story. The unlock is access to capital markets,
The missing piece.
the missing piece. And Lafayette and Oak will help you get all these ducks in a row, if you will, to then see the maximum potential value of your business in 5 years.
So again, asterisks.
Sure.
It depends. What is the average length of engagement? Because it sounds like there's an awful lot of work that has to happen. and it's clearly highly tailored to the individual organizations that you're working with. What does an engagement look like? It's got to be longer
years.
than a day.
You know why 5 years?
Because I presume it takes at least half of that just to answer the first part of the question.
Well, yeah, that's part of it.
I mean, in fullness.
Yes, but from a tax strategy perspective, 5 years. You don't want to sell. Like if you're listening to this and you're wondering, okay, why is Abi droning on and on and on and saying 5 years like 5 times? It's because the 1202 tax treatment that you get by holding on to your rollover equity or by holding on to your business once you elect to do a QSBS, which is called a qualified small business stock. If you hold on to that for a period of 5 years, you can get, I believe, don't quote me on this, ChatGPT it.
Okay.
You can get up to 10 times your basis in the company, tax-free, both federal and state, which is nuts.
So 5 years it is.
5 years
5
it is.
years it is.
Because Lafayette Oaks, we're going to come in and take an equity piece, not in your company, but at the holding co.
Right.
And we're going to go do all this. We're going to identify the narrative. You could continue to talk about that, but we'll identify the right operators. We'll identify the right narrative. We have the ability to find the right team members should you need them. We have the ability to find acquisition targets should you need them.
And that piece we didn't touch on, and that's
Correct.
actually a huge question for me, right? Because that is many well-managed organization strategy is that acquisition of whether it's competition or collaboration or expansion, but they don't know where to begin with that because that's not the market, broadly speaking, has gotten so convoluted from the BS of potential investment, potential buyers who have largely evaporated. The people willing to throw $1 million at an idea just aren't around very much anymore.
Yeah.
I have lots of ideas, but I haven't found any of the millions they were throwing. But the reality is that if you're looking, a dear friend of mine was trying to buy a business in the trades. He was in the trades previously. He was looking to buy one. He could not find another company that would take him seriously till he sat down with financials with them because they've all had so many door knockers that have expressed a level of interest that was never real. So if that facilitation is available through Lafayette and Oak of knowing legitimate, for lack of a better term, opportunities or target acquisitions, that's a big offering.
Yeah. So yes, the answer to your comment is yes. We have all gotten starry-eyed with the idea that we've been sold to by Cody Sanchez, by Walker Deibel, by just to name a few, by Alex Hormozy. Well, Alex does something a little different. By Roland Frazier, and there's one other guy, Jeremy Harbour. All these guys say you can buy business for no money down.
Yep.
And all you got to do is knock on thousands and thousands and thousands of business doors. You know where else this has been prevalent? In real estate.
Yes.
Yuck.
Yes.
So now
Also,
every
yes.
business owner has just eyes glazed over the fact that I'm going to get 5 offers to buy my business, no money down. They're going to have no financials, and they're just going to be like, okay, here's another cesspool of degenerates that's going to sit here and want to buy my company.
Yep.
But it's the way in which you craft your LOI, your letter of intent, the way in which you communicate from day one, your presence, your value, your authority needs to show up well before you do. It's literally that simple, right?
And concept of a herald having all your goodness called before you walk through the door, right?
And that's something that I learned from Gillian. One of the things that I learned from her I don't have any acting background. I don't really have a whole lot of a storytelling background, but I learned that because for the total number of times we've spent, whether it's on the phone or happy hours or whatever, I've always taken away that if you have a compelling story, that's what you need to share. Nobody gives a shit about who you are. They care about the story.
Sure.
They care about the mission and why they should care. And if that's the core pillar content, if that's the core pillar of that's going to drive a acquisition strategy, that's the only thing that you need to focus on, and you don't need Lafayette and Oak for that. You don't need Lafayette and Oak to go set your finances right. Go find an accountant, right?
Sure.
There are plenty of them.
Sure.
You don't need L&O. You don't need L&O. If you spent enough time with ChatGPT in a narrative, you don't need L&O in the beginning. If you want a polished narrative from somebody that makes movies and films, then yes.
Hi.
Right.
Hi,
Hello.
Gillian. Right. And then if after that you found businesses to buy and the SBA 7A loan isn't working anymore because their max limit is $5 million and you're getting tossed around like everybody else, and if you want to play with the elites, then give me a buzz. Give Gillian a buzz.
It sounds, and I don't mean this in the legal sense, it sounds like a partnership. It sounds like it's collaboration. It sounds like in order to really get everything you want to get out of either scaling or exiting, working with or collaborating with Lafayette and Oak is going to help you get there.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, you can do it. Look, you can absolutely bake the cake for your wedding all by yourself.
There's so many recipes online.
I mean, they are all online, and you can watch
There are
YouTube to learn how to frost
tutorials.
it.
That's right.
You can, and I'm sure that the love that you put into that wedding cake will translate onto the plate.
Mhm.
But if your intent is to have it look fantastic and flawless,
Mhm. Or
Go
if
to a
your
bakery.
intent is to have it look fantastic and flawless without putting in hours and hours of learning labor on
Sure.
your end too, so you can better enjoy the experience of the wedding itself.
Yeah.
So
We're in New York every month.
right,
The only reason that I feel I've been able to get access to this world and offer it is I'm a kindred spirit. I did national radio on Wall Street for a decade, talking
Okay.
to 3 million people a day, live and pre-recorded, 2 different shows. And that was my entry point. I've interviewed almost every banker, every investment banker, PE, private credit, et cetera. And I can talk the talk, kind of walk the walk.
sure.
And every one of them will tell you, Main Street business, they don't understand the vocabulary. Like, how do you know to play the game if you don't know the game exists? That's exactly what we're dealing with here. Farmers have the exact same situation. 2024, over 400,000 farmers closed their doors and walked away. They left.
Yep.
And we're doing nothing about it. They just don't have a platform. They don't have a framework.
And they, broadly speaking, and this is where we started. They don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And unfortunately, and I don't want to use names here because it's not for me to call out what I think. It's just the reality is there are people who profit from misleading and people who do profit from laying out and telling a narrative and a story of fast riches, done easy. And if nothing else from the 5 years that we've been talking about is the 5 years tells me that it once again turns out that good things take time and it's hard work. And I know, lo and behold, that's a giant shock to everybody.
Yeah.
But the reality is that the promise of fast money is pretty much always bullshit. It just is.
100%.
Other than a scratch-off ticket, and even
That's
then, if you want to know when billionaires will get taxed, look at the guy in Arkansas that won $1.8 billion on a single ticket. Guess who got taxed? That guy got taxed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point about like narratives that kind of skew away from the truth, I would just say that I don't even want to call it a narrative. I just call that propaganda. Like you're misleading people, and it's a lie. And lies can be beautifully told, so beautifully told. But unfortunately, lies are not reality, and it's not going to give you the thing that you want. And yeah.
But it leads to that walking away.
It does.
Right?
It does lead to that because
I've
you
been
feel
led
like
to believe
exactly.
that, look, it's a $1 million business. But because we followed these 3 bullet points that we heard this one influencer talk about, it should be a $7 million business.
That's right.
And as my father, rest in peace, in the car business, my father used to tell him, the book says it's worth that. Well, shake the book, and when the money falls out, sell it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just not
Right.
how reality is. But unfortunately, it goes back to what we were talking about, where you've got polluted water now.
Yes.
And when you've got things that are at the very least obfuscated, where it's difficult to tell truth from fiction, you need to collaborate with someone who ultimately has your interests at heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when you're in the boat together, it sure helps when everybody is bailing water.
Absolutely.
That's right.
I had a professor in college once say, he was a technical theater professor, so we would always build all of the sets. And he would say, you can have it good, and you can have it fast, but it will not be cheap. You can have it fast and you can
Pick
have it
two.
cheap, but it will not be
Pick
good.
two.
You have to pick two.
Yes.
And so I think to the point of the 5 years, good, fast and cheap. And to the point of the 5 years, yes, you have the tax, the wonderful tax benefit, but you also have the time. And time is such a valuable asset.
One of my fellow implementers, and I wish I could tell you who, but it was at a conference, made the statement that our only inventory is time. That's it. And from that insight, I have moved forward in my own life, understanding how and where I use my time
Absolutely.
is dramatically important. And if I'm in the position where I own a business and I'm looking to grow or I'm looking to exit, you have to put the value on that time to understand that if you invest it wisely, you'll likely benefit much more than if you just rush to the wonderful sign on the side of the road that says "We buy businesses," written in marker. Which I don't know who their market is, but I love those.
I love them.
We buy houses for
Have you ever called one? Have you ever called one of those signs?
I have not.
I sure have. I just love a little
Did you
rabbit
meet
hole.
singles in your area as
I
well?
didn't.
Because I've seen
There
that
was a-
sign.
No, but there was
I'm
a
married,
sign
so I
I
don't call
saw.
those
There was a
numbers.
sign that was like, it was like fly fish number. And I was like, absolutely. And I called that man and he was like, hello. And I was like, hi, I saw your sign that said fly fish. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, are you giving me the fish? Are you teaching me how to fly fish? Like, he was like, well, I'll take you out on the boat and we'll teach you how to fly fish right now. And I was like, all right. And I loved it. Like, I was
Did
like,
you
how
go
many?
fish?
No,
Oh.
I did not go. No.
I'm like, both of us immediate concern. Whoa, gee.
No, I didn't go, but I was
What?
my curiosity was
Sure.
insatiable. I don't know how many people called. Like, what have you taken people out on your boat already? Like, what's this return on a markered sign?
Have they come back alive?
Right, have they come back alive? Are they the bait for the fish?
Right, I was going to say,
Like,
did the
what's
fish eat
happening?
extra?
All right, exactly.
But just
There's
love
so
that.
much depth to this story.
But everybody has a different narrative. You know what I mean?
I can't
Yes.
wait for that movie.
Yes, it's gonna be called Fly Fish.
Nice. Yeah, somebody already
great.
made one called Signs.
Right.
So-
Exactly. The jaws of death.
So let me ask this question, and this is a question that I ask a lot of my guests, and I feel like we've touched on this, but I want to ask this specifically from both of you. What are the common misconceptions? What are the assumptions everybody makes about whether it's scalability, whether it's telling their story, whether it is their ability to sell? What are the things that people assume that it may or may not always be the case? Because common wisdom can kill you.
Yeah.
I think that if you are not invested, fully invested, then nobody else will be. So I think for me, that is a common misconception that people are like, I have this idea and they build up a business, and then they want to scale it, but they don't
wanna be in the boat.
Right. They don't want to be bailing the
Right.
water. Or they want to be the only person bailing the water. I think it's back to what we were talking about before about self-reflection and understanding. So yeah, if you're not invested, then who else will be? If you don't understand why you are invested, then who else will be?
Yeah, I would say to add to that, I can do this myself. Common misconception. I can put off thinking about succession planning another 5 years. Another one. I don't need a capital strategy. I have my banker. That's one. My spouse will understand. That's another.
Oof.
My kids will always be there to run my business afterwards. That's another one. My team gets it. That's another one. I can scale anytime that I want. That's another one. I can read as many books on Amazon.com or on Kindle, or I can order whatever, and the knowledge is readily available. That's another one. I can go to New York and go get the Capitol. That's another
Sure.
one. Yeah, that's easy. Right, that's obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
Just knock on the door.
Knock on the door.
Hello.
That may be the longest but best answer, right?
Yeah.
Because those are all misconceptions, and if it was easy,
You would do it.
everybody'd be doing it.
Yeah. Go do it. Go do it.
Please.
Right? You don't. If you really wanted this, you could have it right now. You just have to invest the time, 5, 10, 15 years, build up the network, do all the things. Or there's a bit of a simpler path. Give us a shout.
I often encounter in the world that I work in that I can do it myself mindset, and I always ask them some form of the question of simply, so when you have the unfortunate circumstance where, say, a previous client has decided to file suit against you, do you immediately enroll in law school?
Yes.
Is that your strategy? Is no problem, give me about 5.5, 6 years and let me pass the bar and I'll take care of this? Or do you call your lawyer? If suddenly the IRS, if the IRS has a problem, do you, and they call your controller or your CFO, do you say, well, all right, hang on, first I got to take the 4 CPA tests, which my daughter's in the process of, so I had to throw that out there.
Nice.
1 down, 3 to go.
Shout out, daughter.
Yes.
And the reality is no, because you can't do everything. And most successful business owners at some point do bonk their head against that wall and realize, okay, the best way to solve this is using Gillian's triangle. You can have it fast,
That's
you can do it great, and you can save money, but you can't have all three.
Not all three at the same time.
There was a book written in the 60s about data processing called The Mythical Man Month. And in it, and this is or the Myth of the Man Month. Pardon me.
Myth of the Man Month.
Myth of the Man Month, and
Check this out on Amazon.
I'll send it to you. I don't even know if it's in print, but I do have a copy.
Okay.
Within it,
Yes.
and understand, this is literally talking about punch cards for data processing. The author posits the concept that his term, management must understand that you cannot hire 9 pregnant women to get the baby here in a month.
Warren Buffett said this. No, I don't think he's credited, obviously.
It just has stuck with me forever because
so
it applies
good
to every business I've ever worked with.
So good.
Because money can solve a lot of problems, and if you are in the side of the finances where money is just a mechanism of keeping score, you're very used to solving your problems with money. But money can't solve every problem. Sometimes you have to put in those 5 years. Sometimes you have to put in that time. And
or
to your
creativity.
point, you have to care. You can't fake that. In EOS, we teach them that if you don't care, they don't care.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is so transparent when you turn around and you look at the example you gave earlier of Steve Jobs, and you look at the way that he drove and inspired people. Nobody says he was nice.
Yep.
A lot of people say he didn't smell that well, but
bathing wasn't a priority.
Not
running the
him.
company was.
But he drove allegiance, and he drove loyalty, and he actually drove creativity and passion because he knew the story. He wrote the story and was smart enough to hire the people around him that helped massage that story so that it was much more effective than he was capable of espousing it.
Well, and just like we were talking earlier about Steve Jobs and how when he was hired back, it went from 19 products to 3.
Yep.
I think it's a similar thing to people and your energy. So are you going to be the person that, 19 you're known for doing 19 different things? Or are you going to be the person that's known for doing 3 things really well?
Yeah.
And that, I think, is...
And that multitasking mask is not effective no matter what you believe.
It can work for a short term, but eventually it's
tough.
It exhausts you.
Juggling chainsaws is never a good idea.
Not for a long period of time. Maybe for the fly fishing guy.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's a special skill.
Yeah.
So, parting thoughts. What should people who've taken the time, invested the time to listen to this, that now understand that Lafayette and Oak has a lot that they offer, and that collaboration is expressed over time, and that there's a lot to be gained. What should they take away from our time today? Tell us a story.
This story. If you are ready to scale and you are ready to reflect on where you are now, where you were before, and where you want to go, give us a call and we can help you create a compelling narrative and help match you to the right capital in a timely manner. And 5 years is a timely manner. And we do so with a lot of care. Like, I genuinely, we're not people that just want an influx of companies, and we want to truly be there, to truly see you, to truly understand, so we can actually help you. 'Cause for me, for Abi, for everybody at Lafayette and Oak, we just want to see growth, like truly developmental growth for the individual and for the business.
I think that's a very compelling story. And as we touched on in our dialogue today, there's a lot of spirituality. There's a lot of heart that's part of this dialogue, because in many cases, people's businesses predate their marriages or their children. And in many ways, having walked this walk myself, my business felt like my child.
Right.
Because I gave it life. I
Your
created
business-
it. I helped
Right.
it
Yeah.
grow.
It's an extension of who you are. Your time,
Yeah.
your sweat, your blood, your tears, and your ideas.
When I was in college forever ago, 2002 to 2006, I was at the center of a joint FBI Department of Justice investigation for mortgage fraud. I was working
When
with
you
a
say at the center.
yeah, it's exactly that.
Okay.
Until I realized that they weren't after me
Okay.
because I ended up being a victim of mortgage fraud. They were after
Okay.
my mentor. I was one of 54 victims. I had purchased somehow 4 properties, inner city Detroit. I was $1 million in debt, and by the end of it,
Right.
I had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, discharged in 2008. I had 4 foreclosures on my record because Bank of America wouldn't take them away.
Sure.
And I was in a corner.
Right.
And when this investigation finished, I had only one person. I had only one person that I can count on. That was me, to redraw the lines of what I thought success would be. And then a month later, I turned 21. If you're listening and you have this sense of wonder, you have this sense of, man, I'm in a tough spot. You have the sense of, I know I've got to do this, but it's not a priority right now, like working out or eating organic. I would encourage you to spend the next couple of hours or couple of days and really sit with your thoughts and see what bubbles up. Because even though I was in a really tough spot, looking back, I wouldn't have changed a damn thing. And I'd encourage you to do the same thing.
That's hard work.
Yeah, it's hard work.
It's reflection.
And to your point earlier, Gillian, you do have to kind of sit with yourself to get there.
Yeah.
I think it's great guidance coming into the new year. It's I'm not a big believer in New Year's resolutions, but the reality is every day gives you the opportunity to start over. You don't have to wait for any particular date on a calendar. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
so
you.
Today, my guests have been Abi Golhar and Gillian Rabin, both from Lafayette and Oak, as it turns out. Follow them on social media.
Yep.
We'll get those links published.
Perfect.
Make sure that you watch the videos. I know, Gillian, you've done some work in motion pictures.
Sure have.
And Abi, you've done some work everywhere. The Momentum Matrix. Do you have a book?
I'm working on that.
Okay.
My agent says I need a book, so now I'm working on a book. And by me working on a book, I mean ChatGPT working on a book.
Well, that's okay. Just talk to it, and it'll talk to you.
No,
and
no,
And it's a great
collaborate.
conversation in the shower at 6 a.m.
Absolutely.
It's perfect.
And when that book comes out, I'd love to have you back. And anything that we can do here to help promote you guys and the work you're doing, I think it's fantastic.
Hey, thanks for having us
Thank
on.
you.
Thank you. This is Joshua Kornitsky, professional EOS implementer, and your host here on High Velocity Radio. Please join us next time. Thank you.